Chapter 1, Rebirth in My Past Life. Leo Smith and I impulsively divorced after an argument. Just as we were planning to remarry, he became wildly obsessed with a streamer and wanted to sell our car and home to win her favor. After a struggle between both our families, he ultimately failed. Leo knelt before me, claiming it was a moment of madness and begged me to start over. Unable to let go of our past, I chose to forgive him. Who would have known that he would then orchestrate a car crash that killed my parents, contact a human trafficker, and have me sold off to a remote, rural area? All just to seize my family's assets and chase after that streamer again. I tried to escape but failed and was tortured to death. This time, I've decided to take back what's mine and give him exactly what he wants. Joy, I'm talking to you. A rough shove sent the ceramic mug in my hand slipping, and it shattered on the floor. What are you spacing out for? Can't even hold a cup steady. Leo Smith frowned, shooting me a look of displeasure before his eyes darted back to his phone. I stared at him blankly. It was only when I heard the sweet singing coming from his phone that I snapped back to reality. Leo was dressed in the style he favored before we were supposed to get back together. After we had reconciled, he started dressing formally every day, refusing to wear casual clothes even at home. I've been reborn, it wasn't a dream. I truly had a second chance. The horrific memory of being chained hand and foot, tortured until I died, flashed through my mind. As I looked at the man responsible for it all, my eyes turned crimson with rage. I said, "I want some pork ribs for dinner. Go buy some." Leo stopped mid-sentence as he looked up and met my hate-filled gaze. He froze, then grew annoyed. "I'm just asking you to buy some ribs. Is this really necessary? With this attitude, how are we supposed to get back together?" I had been with Leo for 5 years, and we were married for 3 months. We split up over an argument about how to divide the holidays between his family and mine. I wanted to spend a couple of extra days with my parents, but he flatly refused. In a fit of anger, I suggested we just get a divorce and go our separate ways. To my surprise, Leo agreed on the spot. Trapped by my own words, I impulsively divorced him. Once the divorce papers were in my hand, I calmed down and was heartbroken at the thought of our years together ending so abruptly. It was then that Leo also showed his sadness. He said he had been impulsive and didn't want to be apart from me. We agreed to give each other a chance. We would be divorced but still live together, and when the time was right, we would remarry. Since I was the one who suggested the divorce, I felt guilty and tried to make it up to him. I treated him better and better, learning to cook whatever he wanted to eat. I took care of all the housework and often planned surprises for him. However, just as we were discussing getting back together, Leo became obsessed with a streamer and wanted to sell our car and home to please her. I found their chat logs and told both our parents. After a major confrontation between the two families, Leo didn't get his way. At that time, I was devastated and ready to leave him for good, but he knelt before me, tears streaming down his face, and promised he would never make the same mistake again. He swore he would treat me well for the rest of his life. I couldn't let go of our 5-year history. My heart softened, and I believed him. In the end, my parents died a horrible death in a car crash orchestrated by Leo. He contacted a human trafficker and had me sold to a remote mountain village. I failed to escape and was chained up daily, tortured to death, while he took all of my family's assets. Hearing the familiar sweet singing from Leo's phone, the hatred in my heart intensified. He never intended to remarry me. He was just using it to control me. All because he was plotting to get this house a house that I had paid for the majority of, and that had my name on the deed. I didn't hide the hatred in my eyes as I looked at him coldly. "Then let's not get back together." With that, I stood up, walked into the bedroom, and locked the door behind me. I needed to calm down. Otherwise, I might have stormed into the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and charged at him. If I killed him, I would go to prison. Given a second chance, I was going to live a good life. I couldn't let him ruin my future. I had to watch Leo destroy himself, to see him walk step by step into the abyss. Only then would the hatred in my heart be appeased. Chapter 2. Putting on an act. Perhaps my attitude had changed so drastically that Leo was caught off guard. After a moment, he came to open the bedroom door. Finding it locked, he flew into a rage and started pounding on it. "Joy, have you lost your mind? Throwing a tantrum again, are you? I told you you're not mature enough. If this continues, how are we supposed to grow old together? Hearing his words, I laughed mockingly. He had always used this kind of manipulation on me, making me believe I was the problem, turning me into someone submissive who only ever blamed herself. In my past life, just as he was coaxing me to sell the house with the promise of buying a new one before we were married, I discovered his chat logs with the streamer. He wanted to sell the house because he had promised her he would buy a new one in her city, with her name on the deed. I was such a love-struck fool back then. Even after all that, I still clung to the memory of our relationship. Come out and apologize to me. Otherwise, I won't forgive you this time, Leo was still yelling. I opened the door and looked at him calmly. When Leo's furious gaze met my face, he froze. I said in a level voice, "We're already divorced. Whether you forgive me or not is irrelevant. Let's sell the house and split the money according to how much we each put in." I wouldn't touch a cent of what was his, and he wouldn't get a penny of what was mine. Leo stared at me, his expression a mixture of suspicion and confusion. After a moment, he frowned. Still trying to play hard to get? Joy, that trick won't work on me. I told you we will get back together, but you have to fix those bad habits of yours. He actually thought I was trying to force him to remarry me. In his eyes, I was probably desperate for him and stupid enough to fall for anything, which was why he acted so brazenly. However, I didn't know how far things had gone between him and the streamer, and I couldn't afford to mess things up. To help him along his destined path, I suppressed my hatred, fought back my disgust, and said in a hurt tone, "I've already changed so much, but you keep putting off getting back together with me?" As soon as I said this, Leo's expression visibly relaxed. He looked at me with the smug confidence of someone who had me wrapped around his finger. "I was originally planning to go get our marriage certificate with you tomorrow. What a shame." Leo sighed, looking at me with an expression of disappointment. "Your baseless tantrum today has really let me down. Let's wait a while longer before we go." What an act. I wanted to spit in his face and tell him to get lost, but on the surface, I only showed sadness. "Then I'll go stay at my parents' for a few days to reflect." The thought of my parents, whose faces were almost unrecognizable after the crash, made my eyes well up with tears. Seeing me on the verge of crying, Leo assumed I couldn't bear to leave him. He dropped the act, his eyes filled with contempt. "Go on, then. I hope you've truly gotten over your bad temper by the time you come back." He finished speaking and went back to the sofa to continue watching the streamer's live broadcast. As I watched him send a continuous stream of virtual gifts on his phone, a cold smile touched my lips. Leo's money must be running out. Soon, he would set his sights on this house. I wouldn't have to wait long. I had no intention of ever coming back. As I left, I packed all my important belongings into a suitcase. When I was ready to leave, Leo surprisingly looked at me with a hint of nervousness. I tensed up as well. Had he figured something out? Then I heard him say, "My cousin is coming to stay for a few days. Let me know when you're coming back." Leo paused for a few seconds before adding, "We'll come and pick you up then." He didn't have any female cousins, only 2 male ones. The person coming was that streamer. Chapter 3. The setup in my past life, he had fooled me into believing it was really his cousin. I'd foolishly played the good hostess for days, serving her the best food and drinks. Just thinking about it made my blood boil. This time, my departure had prompted the streamer's early arrival. I was creating the perfect opportunity for their relationship to blossom. Leo should be thanking me for being so considerate. I gave him a non-committal answer and eagerly left. When I arrived back at my parents' house and saw them joyfully coming out to greet me, I couldn't hold back my tears any longer. "Dad, Mom," I choked out. It was so wonderful to see them alive and well. My mother was startled to see me with a suitcase and tears streaming down my face. "What's wrong? Did Leo bully you?" she asked anxiously. My father was even more furious. "I'm going to settle the score with him." I grabbed my parents' arms. "Dad, Mom, you don't have to." In my past life, one of the reasons I kept enduring everything, aside from being blinded by love, was my fear of being scolded by my parents. Marriage wasn't a game, and getting divorced after just a few months felt shameful. But my parents loved me so much, their only concern was my happiness. This time, I chose to tell them everything about the divorce. After hearing my story, my parents weren't as emotional as I had expected. They were silent for a long time. Finally, my father said, "If you're divorced, you're divorced. It's better than dragging it out." my mother sighed. Happiness doesn't come from constantly giving in. It's good that you've come to your senses. Their reaction made me realize that they had never really approved of Leo. They only accepted him because I liked him. In my past life, I was the one who caused their deaths. After my parents were killed in the car crash, I was at my lowest point. Leo handed me a glass of water, and after drinking it, I fell unconscious. My consciousness was hazy as the trafficker took me away. But I would never forget Leo's words. He whispered in my ear, "Your parents' death wasn't an accident. Surprise, surprise. Joy, you brought this on yourself. If you had just agreed to sell the house, none of this would have happened. Now, all your family's assets belong to me. I'm going to win Jessica back. Thanks to your family for funding my new life, haha." Remembering the horrible state my parents were in, I threw myself into their arms, sobbing. "I'm so sorry. I wouldn't be so foolish this time. I would protect them, and I would protect myself. Even though I was divorced, I hadn't gotten back the wedding gifts from my family. My parents, afraid of upsetting me, didn't even ask about them. The car Leo drove was bought by my father, but it was registered in Leo's name. At the time, my parents wanted to put my name on it, but Leo had brainwashed me into thinking we were one family. He said it didn't matter whose name was on it. It belonged to both of us. He would be my driver, but it was often more convenient if the driver was also the owner. I thought he had a point, so I ignored my parents' objections and insisted on using his name. Every time I thought about it, I cursed myself for being so stupid. The next day, I sent Leo a message. "My dad was thinking of getting us a better car. What do you think?" The streamer must have been with him because Leo didn't reply until much later. "Sure, can we get an Audi? Like one of the 100,000 models." Our current car was a BMW that cost over $60,000. I sneered. He certainly wasn't shy about it. "Sure, my dad has a friend who can give us a good trade in price on the BMW. Bring it over, we'll get it taken care of, and then you can pick out a new one." Leo was even more impatient than I had expected. He rushed over with the car that very afternoon. My parents had gone to my aunt's house, so I was home alone. Chapter 4. Success. I looked at him with a troubled expression. "My dad's friend is out of town on business. He might not be back today." "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Leo's face turned sour. "I didn't expect you to come today. Why don't we wait and see?" Leo frowned. The drive here took him over 5 hours round trip. He clearly didn't want to make the journey again. So, his only option was to wait. As it grew dark, Leo's phone rang several times. He hastily hung up, casting a few wary glances in my direction. I smiled understandingly. "Is it something from work? You can take the call on the balcony." "Yeah, I took the day off. It might be important. I'll just make a quick call," Leo said as he hurried to the balcony. He didn't know that the glass door to our balcony wasn't soundproof. I could hear him deliberately lowering his voice. "Baby, what's wrong? As soon as I get the new car, I'll transfer it to your name. I keep my promises. Baby, you're the only one for me. It's just that all my money is tied up with her, and it's not easy to get it back. I just have to play along for a few more days." So Leo was playing both sides. Saying his money was with me was a joke. What little money he had was probably all spent on showing off and sending gifts to that streamer. My family was better off than his, and I had always contributed more financially without ever keeping score. In the 5 years we were together, Leo wasn't always like this. He used to be very good to me. When we were working in different cities, he would travel long distances just to see me for a moment and tell me he missed me. I was deeply moved by that and believed that, at the very least, he loved me, no matter what he did. But I had overlooked one thing. Once a person's heart changes, all the love from the past is thrown to the dogs. "Really? Then you can't say no to me tonight. Darling, you have no idea how crazy I am for you." The rest was just sickeningly sweet talk. I walked away and didn't listen anymore. After a while, Leo came back in from the balcony. "Is your dad's friend back yet? I have an emergency at work and they need me to go back and handle it." He was in a hurry to get back to Jessica. Of course, I wouldn't expose him. "Not yet. Why don't you come back tomorrow? Or you could leave the car here, sign an authorization form, and I'll take care of it for you." With the woman he adored waiting at home, Leo couldn't bear to be away. He agreed immediately. I printed out the authorization form for him to sign, and I recorded a video as proof. At the end, I guided him to state that the car was a wedding gift from my father to me. As the video concluded, I said, as if joking, "The money for the car will go into my dad's account, which is like you returning my dowry. When we remarry, he'll buy you an even better car, and it'll still be my dowry." Leo paused, his brow furrowed. Perhaps he was thinking you have to spend money to make money, because he eventually agreed. I never thought he would object. The last car was bought a month before our wedding. This time, with the talk of remarrying, he probably assumed he could just pick a date and the new car would be his. Leo left in an even bigger hurry than when he arrived. The next day, I arranged for someone to pick up the car, and the money was transferred directly to my dad's account. Finally getting that money back, my hands trembled slightly. Next was the house. My share of it would be mine soon enough. A couple of days later, Leo sent me a message with the model of the new car he had picked out. I had already consulted a lawyer. The house was in both our names, so even after the divorce, it had to be divided based on our financial contributions. With the money from the car secured, I didn't want to endure his nauseating presence any longer. I blocked Leo's number. Immediately, his call came through. I answered calmly. "Joy, what's the meaning of this? Why did you block me?" I sneered and laid it all out. "It means I'm cutting all ties with you, so I don't stand in the way of your happiness with Jessica." Chapter 5. No longer a love-struck fool, there was a brief silence on the other end of the line, but I could hear Leo's breathing grow heavier. A moment later, he said calmly, "Give me the car back." "That's hilarious. My dad bought that car. Why should I give it to you?" "Joy," Leo roared in anger. "You set me up." He was smart. It only took a few words for him to understand my intention behind the authorization form and the video. I no longer hid my hatred, my voice laced with venom. "I was just taking back what's mine. Don't contact me again unless it's to sell the house." With that, I hung up. I could only imagine how furious Leo must be. To be outsmarted by someone he considered utterly foolish and completely under his thumb, how could he not be enraged? He called me frantically, again and again. I didn't mind the trouble, hanging up on him each time. After hundreds of calls, Leo finally gave up. I picked up my study materials and focused. In 2 months, a prestigious company was recruiting, and I was going to do my best to get in. A few years ago, I had the chance at a great career. But at the time, my head was filled with romantic notions. I believed Leo and chose a less demanding job. After we got married, I listened to him again and quit to prepare for having children. In my past life, I even felt guilty towards Leo because we never had a child. In reality, how could a man with such malicious intent, who was plotting to destroy my entire family, ever let me have his child? Now, I was grateful we didn't have any children. I was going to work hard, be ambitious, and build a brilliant life for myself. With Jessica in the picture, Leo was desperate for money. It wasn't long before he contacted me, saying someone wanted to buy the house and that I needed to come over to sign the paperwork. Our place was in a great location, and houses there sold quickly, so I didn't suspect anything and left immediately. The address Leo gave me was a real estate agency. It was a bit remote, but it was a legitimate agency, and it was broad daylight. Although I frowned, I didn't think too much of it. Inside the agency, besides Leo and Jessica, there were a few other people. My eyes swept over a man in a black shirt, and for some reason, a chill ran down my spine. Moreover, there was something familiar about him. I paused at the doorway, trying hard to remember where I had seen him before. "Joy, you insidious, cunning, despicable villain," Leo's furious shouting pulled my attention back to him. "You're the one who's insidious and cunning. You're not just despicable, you're shameless. Have I ever taken a single cent from you?" I glanced pointedly at Jessica. Some people should be careful not to get scammed. To my surprise, before Leo could say anything, Jessica glared at me and started yelling. "Stop trying to stir up trouble. Leo loves me now. I advise you to be smart, sign the papers, and get out of here. Stop pestering him. Well, a match made in hell. They could destroy each other for all I cared. If you like him so much, you can have him. Don't worry, not only will I not pester him, the very sight of him makes me sick." Leo probably couldn't figure out why I had changed so suddenly. He was both angry and annoyed, and even threw out a threat. "Joy, don't you regret this?" I looked at him coldly. "Don't worry, I will never regret this. Who's the buyer? Where's the contract?" Leo's face was dark as he threw the contract on the table in front of me, tossing a pen along with it. "Hurry up and sign," he urged. He wanted me to sign just because he said so. Did he still think I was an idiot? I took my time, carefully reading through the contract. The agent printed it. Do you even understand what you're looking at? Stop pretending and just sign it. Don't waste my time. The more Leo rushed me, the more my gaze settled on an inconspicuous clause in the contract. My eyes narrowed. I looked up, tore the contract in half, and slapped the pieces across Leo's face. Voluntarily waive all proceeds from the sale of the house, with all funds going to you. In your dreams, seeing that I had discovered the problem with the contract, Leo's face turned grim. This agency was clearly shady. I was about to get up and leave. Just then, the man who had given me chills suddenly pulled out a cloth and started walking towards me. I told you we didn't need to make it so complicated. Just knock her out and all our problems will be solved, right? My heart tightened. I then realized the agency door had been closed, and I finally remembered the man holding the cloth. Lunging for my face, he was the human trafficker Chapter 6. Shameless Leo had been in contact with this trafficker for a long time. We had been together for 5 years. And I never knew he was acquainted with such a dangerous person. In my previous life, when Leo got involved with Jessica and wanted to sell the car and house, I was the one who made a scene involving both our families, which prevented him from succeeding. He buried his resentment, plotting to seize my family's assets on a larger scale, all for the sake of being with Jessica, all for his so-called happiness. In this life, I chose to grant him his wish, letting him pursue that happiness, only taking back what belonged to my family. Even so, he was still determined to harm me. I glared at him, my eyes bloodshot. Leo, haven't I given you enough over the years? Where is your conscience? Leo's face was vicious. You should have just signed the papers if you had. None of this would be happening. I'd get the house, and you'd get the money from the car. My family bought that car. The house was worth $1.5 million, and $1 million of that came from me and my family. He gets the house. I get the car, money. Only someone as shameless as Leo could say something like that. I was both furious and terrified. There were 3 men in the shop, all on Leo's side, and the door was locked. How could I possibly escape? The thought of being trapped in that remote place, where my screams would go unanswered, was terrifying. The torture I endured before my death flashed through my mind again, and my body trembled uncontrollably. I kept backing away until my back was against the wall. I'll sign, just let me go, Leo sneered. Too late, we don't need your signature anymore. I can get it done without you. All you need to do is disappear quietly. He pulled out a prepared contract, flipped to the signature page, grabbed my finger, smeared it with ink, and pressed it onto the paper. Are you crazy? This is illegal. They were already committing such a crime. They obviously weren't afraid of the law. These were criminals who didn't care about the consequences. I screamed hysterically, hoping someone nearby would hear, while secretly reaching into my purse. No screaming, one more sound and we'll cripple you before we sell you, the trafficker threatened. A man like him was capable of anything. My pupils dilated in fear. I didn't dare make another sound, my hand tightening around the object I had taken from my purse. Thankfully, I hadn't trusted Leo. Before I came, I had packed some simple self-defense tools in my bag. I didn't know if they would be effective, but at least they gave me a sliver of hope. Perhaps my trembling, frightened appearance made the trafficker think I wouldn't dare to resist. He put away the cloth he had intended to use on me. I breathed a small sigh of relief. That thing was probably meant to knock me out. Facing this consciously was better than the unknown fear of being unconscious. At least I could look for a chance to save myself. The trafficker said to Leo, I provided the place, and I'm taking care of the person. You've already scammed your ex-wife out of her house, so you're not short on cash. I'll give you $10,000 as a token. Leo frowned, clearly dissatisfied with only getting $10,000. $20,000. The trafficker shot him a disdainful look. You won't even let go of this little bit of money. You're even more shameless than I am. Leo glared at the trafficker but didn't argue. He took the money and warned, you should still knock her out. We can't have her escaping and getting us all in trouble. That scumbag, I must have been blind to have ever loved him. The trafficker sneered. No one escapes from me. She'll be shipped out tonight. You two can get lost now. Leo took Jessica's hand, waited for the trafficker's men to open the door, and left without a backward glance. I seized the opportunity. I pulled out my pepper spray and suddenly sprayed it directly into the eyes of the trafficker, blocking my path. Chapter 7. Saving myself, the trafficker, caught completely off guard, was sprayed right in the face. He squeezed his eyes shut and screamed. Get her! The agency was just a small storefront, probably a front for their illegal activities, with the main area hidden behind a door leading to the back. My sudden attack had taken the trafficker by surprise, and before he could react, I was already at the door. The man holding the door shut glared at me and reached out to grab me. His wide-open eyes were the perfect target. I gave him a full blast of pepper spray as well. He let out a howl, clamping his eyes shut and instinctively pulling his hands back to cover his face. Seizing the moment, I pushed open the half-closed door and ran for my life, the sound of their vile curses echoing behind me. As luck would have it, just as I escaped, I saw a taxi stopping not far away to let a passenger out. I jumped into the taxi, and even as it sped away, my body was still shaking. These people were audacious. Although the area was a bit secluded, it was still a public street, not the middle of nowhere. Yet, they acted without any fear. Perhaps they assumed that a woman with no strength like me couldn't possibly cause any trouble under their watch. Luckily, I had been on my guard and prepared beforehand, and luckily, they had underestimated me. As I got into the taxi, my eyes met Leo's. I clearly saw the terror in his gaze. He had every reason to be afraid. I had escaped, which meant he was about to face the punishment he deserved. "Driver, to the police station," I said, my voice trembling. The driver glanced in the rearview mirror. "Miss, there's someone chasing us." "Are they bad guys?" Startled, I looked back and saw an unfamiliar car gaining on us. Leo didn't have a car, so it must belong to the traffickers. "Yes, they're human traffickers. They were trying to sell me." "Driver, please, step on it." The driver was a man who hated injustice. Hearing my story, he became furious. "What in broad daylight? How dare they? Don't you worry, miss. They won't be able to catch my car." With that, he floored the gas pedal, weaving through traffic as he sped towards the police station. No one knows the roads better than a taxi driver. He wasn't exaggerating, he quickly lost them. I had already called the police on the way. By the time we reached the station, I was still in shock, my face pale. Because the case involved human traffickers, the police took it very seriously. I sat for a while, drank a cup of hot water, and slowly began to calm down. As my thoughts cleared, I suddenly remembered my voice recorder. I had turned it on just before entering the agency. I had brought the recorder initially because I was afraid Leo might pull some other trick during the contract signing. I had switched it on before going inside. That meant everything that was said in the agency had been recorded. Thanks to all of them underestimating me, I not only had a chance to escape, but also managed to secure such crucial evidence. I handed the voice recorder to the police. With the evidence in hand, the police immediately issued an arrest warrant. But the traffickers, as well as Leo and Jessica, had all fled as soon as they realized things had gone wrong. The traffickers were fast, but Leo was the type of person who had a wicked heart and the audacity to commit crimes, but lacked the guts to face the consequences and had nowhere to hide. When I left, I saw Leo and Jessica being led into the police station in handcuffs. The police said they were found at home. Seeing me, Leo shouted excitedly, "Joy, quick, tell them I'm your husband." I paused, looking at him in disbelief. How could he have the audacity? Where did he get the nerve to say such a thing? Seeing that I had stopped, Leo put on the same smug expression he used to have, as if he still had me under his control. "We were just having a little fight. Quick, tell the police it was a misunderstanding. We'll go get remarried right now." Chapter 8. Will you support us? Did he still think I was that utterly foolish, love-struck girl? That all he had to do was say the word remarry, and I would abandon all my principles and happily forgive him. I truly pitied my former self. "Joy," Leo was still shouting. Even the police officer, who knew the whole story, was left speechless. I couldn't be bothered with him and turned to leave. Finally, I had averted the greatest crisis of my life. The events of the day were so terrifying that I didn't tell my parents, afraid they couldn't handle the shock. I never expected Leo's mother to show up at our door the next day. I had gone to bed late and woke up a bit later than usual. At home, I was always relaxed, and my parents spoiled me. It was the loud shouting in the living room that woke me up. I rubbed my eyes and opened my bedroom door to see my former mother-in-law, her face contorted with rage, shoving my mother. She was furious because my mother was blocking her from coming toward my room. When Mrs. Smith saw me, she immediately stopped struggling with my mother and turned to question me. "Joy, I always thought I treated you well. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say I treated you like my own daughter. Is this how you repay me? I'd really like to see what your heart is made of, to be so black. You young people fall in and out of love quickly. A divorce is one thing, but how could you be so vicious as to send Leo to prison?" My mother, who had been about to argue back, froze at her words. Her face paled. "Joy, what did Leo do to you?" See, that's a real mother. My former mother-in-law claimed to treat me like her own daughter, but when she found out her son was arrested because of me, she accused me of having a black heart. My own mother's first thought was whether I had been hurt. The police were involved. He must have committed a crime. How could Mrs. Smith not understand something so simple? No, she understood. She was just angry that I was the one who called the police. My mother held my arms, her eyes scanning me up and down to see if I was okay. "I'm fine," I said, offering her a reassuring smile. My mother relaxed, but my words seemed to provoke my former mother-in-law again. "You're fine, yet you called the police on my son. Joy, how could you be so malicious? You go to the police station right now and drop the charges, otherwise, I won't let your family hear the end of it. He's my only son. If you send him to jail, what will happen to my husband and me? Are you going to support us?" My mother exploded. "Why don't you first ask what your son did to break the law? How is my daughter the malicious one? If she were, why is it your son the police arrested? You have one son, and I have one daughter. Yours is a treasure, but mine isn't. They're already divorced, and your Leo has found himself some streamer. The young one is shameless, trying to steal my family's assets, and now the old one is shameless too, having the nerve to say my daughter will support you, Mrs. Smith was taken aback, her confidence clearly shaken. "That streamer and my son are just friends. It's not that kind of relationship at all." He was hoping to get back together with Joy. They had already agreed to get their marriage certificate back in a few days. Her voice grew louder. "You were about to remarry, Joy. How can you say your actions aren't wicked? It's just a little spat between you two. It's not like you haven't been together before. And you called the police." I was speechless. From the sound of it, she thought I called the police because Leo had forced himself on me. She was being so vague about it. It was absolute nonsense. Chapter 9. Kicking her out, my face hardened as I told her the truth. "Ma'am, I don't know if you came up with these ideas on your own or if this is what Leo told you. But the reason he was arrested is that he forged a contract to steal my share of the house proceeds and made a deal with a human trafficker to sell me." Mrs. Smith's face changed. She stammered a rebuttal. That's impossible. Aren't you standing right here perfectly fine? Don't make up such horrifying stories to deceive an old woman like me. Sell you? You're a grown woman, not a child. How could he possibly sell you?" Leo was such a good actor. In front of his family, he was the perfect son, filial, obedient, and capable. It was normal for his mother not to believe it. I gave a self-deprecating smile. "If I hadn't managed to escape, would you even have the chance to barge into my home and question me today?" The memory of my gruesome death in my past life, of those days spent in captivity, made my eyes turn red. If I hadn't escaped, right now I'd be in some remote mountain, chained up, suffering endless torture with no hope of ever coming home. And all of this would be thanks to your wonderful son, Leo. My words, filled with emotion and hatred, made Mrs. Smith stumble back a couple of steps. She couldn't accept the truth. Her face turned pale, but her eyes still held a hint of suspicion. Just then, my mother recovered from her shock. My father, who had been out for his morning exercise, had returned at some point and had heard everything I said. His face was filled with lingering fear, and his eyes blazed with a towering rage. Together with my mother, they began to push my former mother-in-law out. "Get out, you're not welcome here. Your son did such a vicious thing, he deserves to be locked up." Mrs. Smith staggered, mumbling, "How is that possible? Leo told me it was just a small issue between a young couple." Then she looked up at me, her eyes shining as if she had finally found an excuse. "He was just trying to scare you. Joy, Leo would never sell you. I went to see him this morning, and he was still talking about getting back together with you, Leo, that liar. He even deceived his own mother. How had I never realized what a scumbag he was? Get back together? They will never get back together in this lifetime. Get out, get out." My parents forcefully pushed Mrs. Smith out the door. She knocked a few more times. We were worried she might lose control and cause a scene with the neighbors, but surprisingly, she left on her own after a short while. Once it was quiet, the first thing my parents did was turn back and hug me, their eyes red. "Something so terrible happened, why didn't you tell us?" my mother scolded through her sobs. My father didn't say anything, but his expression said the same. They were afraid for me. I patted their backs comfortingly. "I'm fine now. I didn't want you to worry. I wasn't going to hide it from you forever. I just wanted to wait a few days. See, I'm perfectly fine." I smiled and spun around for them to see. My mother kept asking for details, so I had no choice but to tell them the whole story. My parents trembled as they listened. "That heartless beast, Leo, he's not even human," my father said angrily. "I thought if I was good to him, he would be good to my daughter. I never imagined it would only feed his greed. What son-in-law is like half a son? With someone like him, we almost lost our daughter," my mother said, her voice full of worry. Chapter 10. Taking responsibility, this incident cast a dark shadow over my parents' hearts. It wasn't just them. I couldn't recover so quickly either. My past life haunted me like a nightmare, but my parents were safe and sound now. The horrific scene of them being unrecognizable would never happen again. In time, after witnessing the wicked receive their due punishment, I should be able to move on completely. The atmosphere at home was extremely somber. I forced a smile. "Don't overthink it. We've overcome this hurdle. From now on, only good days are ahead." Seeing my bright smile, my mother's expression finally eased a bit. But then, a thought seemed to strike her, and she frowned. "About what Leo said about getting back together. You haven't forgiven him again, have you?" "This time, your father and I will absolutely not agree to it," I sighed softly. "In your eyes, am I really that hopelessly blinded by love?" "Dad, Mom, don't worry, I've woken up." My father seemed to believe me. My mother, however, still looked suspicious. "Really woken up?" Recalling how I used to trust Leo completely, I couldn't blame my mother for her doubt. I nodded firmly and promised, "From now on, I just want our family to live in peace." Only then did my mother let out a sigh of relief. "Well, not everyone is as bad as Leo. If you meet someone suitable, you can still date. Just be sure to judge their character carefully and don't be fooled by appearances." Then her tone shifted. "No, you still have to bring him home. Your father and I will vet him for you." Her thoughts moved quickly. I had been worried they would be once bitten, twice shy, afraid of me interacting with any men. Turns out I was overthinking it. This was good, at least their mindset was healthy. As for whether I would date again, we'd see. It was absolutely necessary to not let the next person know I was an only child from a family with some assets, to avoid another predator trying to marry into the family for the inheritance. A month later, I was almost fully prepared for the upcoming interview. Although I had always worked as an assistant, it was only in small companies. This time, I was interviewing at Euroi Technology. It was one of the top 500 companies in the world, and the position was assistant to the CEO. To be honest, I wasn't very confident. I had prepared everything I could, the rest was up to fate. The recruitment process was rigorous, with a written test and an interview. If you passed both, you still had to get through the CEO. The written test went smoothly. That same evening, I received a notification for an interview. The next morning, I got ready and went to the interview. Downstairs, I was stopped by my former mother-in-law, who had appeared out of nowhere. She looked exhausted, completely devoid of energy. Leo had always been her pride and joy. In her eyes, he had achieved a car, a house, and a good job through his own efforts. Mrs. Smith had claimed to be good to me, but she knew about my family's financial contributions and never mentioned them. Perhaps in her mind, her son had earned those things through his own abilities as well. "Joy, I want to apologize to you." I was stunned. I remembered in my past life, when Leo wanted to sell the car and house for Jessica, Mrs. Smith had been on my side. She was the one who threw tantrums and threatened to kill herself to stop him, telling me she would only ever recognize me as her daughter-in-law. Her true intentions might have just been to protect the assets, but at the time, I was genuinely moved. Thinking of that, I sighed with complicated feelings. "You have nothing to be sorry for." Tears welled in Mrs. Smith's eyes. "I want to apologize on behalf of Leo. She wouldn't be here without a reason." I calmed myself. "Ma'am, when adults make mistakes, they have to face the consequences themselves." Chapter 11. Drained tears rolled down Mrs. Smith's cheeks. Joy, Leo was just momentarily blinded. He deeply regrets his mistakes now. He still only loves you and wants to grow old with you. Can you find it in your heart to forgive him? Faced with her pleading eyes, I could only sigh. Is that what Leo told you? Mrs. Smith nodded eagerly. Yes, I'm not making this up. I'm not lying to you. If you don't believe me, you can go see him. Leo will apologize to you in person. A scumbag remains a scumbag, even when he's lost his freedom. After the fight over assets, and more importantly, after he tried to have me killed, after we had torn each other apart completely, he still thought that all he had to do was say he loved me, say he wanted to grow old with me, and I would come wagging my tail back to him. When he said that at the police station, I thought he was just desperate and not thinking clearly. But after all this time, Leo was still having his mother relay these messages. Did he really think I was that easy to fool? Taking a deep breath, I looked at her calmly. Did he also tell you to write a letter of forgiveness and clarify to the police that he wasn't involved in the trafficking, that it was all the work of those bad guys? Isn't that the truth? Leo was just implicated, Mrs. Smith said excitedly. As I suspected, Leo's motive for saying all that was to get me to bail him out. I shook my head. No, he was the ringleader. He even took $20,000 from the trafficker. He can't escape this. The trafficking was a fact, with the recording as proof. Tears streamed down Mrs. Smith's face as she dropped to her knees before me. Joy, I'm begging you on my knees. Please, just help Leo. Please don't, I can't accept this. I jumped back in shock. You were married, and you were together for 5 years. For the sake of your past, can't you help him? The bond of marriage and years together only applies to people with decency and loyalty. For someone like him, who wanted me dead, what kindness should I show him? I wanted nothing more than to go and stomp on him a few times. There's nothing I can say to change the situation, and I can't help him. Ma'am, you don't need to waste your time. I had an interview to get to. I had left plenty of time, but this delay was making me anxious. After preparing for so long, if I failed because I was late, I would be devastated. I turned to head for the street to catch a cab, but to my surprise, Mrs. Smith suddenly lunged at me like a madwoman and grabbed me. She glared at me fiercely. I've already knelt for you, what more do you want? Then, she started shouting at the top of her lungs. Everyone, come and judge for yourselves. This is my daughter-in-law, she's fighting with my son, and made an old woman like me kneel to her. I knelt, and she's still not satisfied. At this hour, there were many elderly people out for groceries and morning exercises. They loved a good spectacle, and a crowd quickly formed. She shot me a threatening look. If you don't agree, you're not leaving today. This stunt from Mrs. Smith completely drained the last bit of sentiment I had for her from my past life. Did she really think I was a pushover? My eyes filled with ferocity. I leaned in close to her ear and said coldly, if you don't stop this nonsense, I will let everyone here know that your son is a human trafficker. Let's see who's the one who gets pointed at and cursed then. Her rumors would, at most, make me the subject of some gossip. But if people found out her son was a human trafficker, the public condemnation would drown her. Mrs. Smith's pupils constricted in shock, as if she couldn't believe I would retaliate like that. Her relentless demeanor vanished in an instant, and she let go of my arm. I turned to the onlookers, a harmless smile on my face. This lady has mistaken me for someone else. Chapter 12. Blessings. Mrs. Smith's silence was a tacit admission. The crowd immediately started chattering. Could she be a scammer? I've seen videos where someone grabs a girl and won't let go, claiming she's their daughter, daughter-in-law, or wife. They sound so convincing. I've seen those too. How could you mistake someone? She's not that old. This woman doesn't look like she's from around here. Do any of you know her? Seeing that she had become the target of everyone's suspicion, Mrs. Smith covered her face and fled amidst the murmurs. Leo and his mother were cut from the same cloth, both assuming I was easy to manipulate. After today's incident, I believed Mrs. Smith wouldn't be bothering me again anytime soon. But the delay had still cost me time. By the time I arrived at the company, all the other interview candidates had already gone upstairs. The receptionist told me that the company was extremely strict about punctuality and did not accept latecomers. 3 years ago, because of Leo and my own foolishness in love, I had missed out on a good job. This time, I had prepared for so long for this interview, only to have it sabotaged by Leo's mother. The word furious wasn't enough to describe my emotions. Dejectedly, I walked out of the company building, only to run into the streamer, Jessica Taylor. I knew she had been released from custody. Jessica wasn't involved in the trafficking. At most, she could be considered an accessory for not reporting it. Plus, Leo had taken all the blame upon himself. He claimed Jessica knew nothing, not even who the people at the agency were. So even the charge of failing to report was dropped. Jessica recognized me too. She glanced up at the company building behind me, sneered, and blocked my path. "Here for an interview? Looks like you failed. You should know your own limits. How dare you even dream of a big company like Yoroi?" In my past life, I hated Jessica. I thought it was her appearance that had made Leo so terrible. But in this life, I no longer thought that way. If it hadn't been Jessica, it would have been some other woman. Leo was rotten to the core. Jessica was just a catalyst. Leo would receive the punishment he deserved, and Jessica would become just a passerby in my life. We were destined to walk two separate paths that would never cross. I never expected that she would be the one to seek me out and cause trouble. I chuckled lightly. At least I was notified for an interview, so I guess I have the right to dream. I'm afraid you can't even get your foot in the door. Are you mocking my lack of education? Jessica glared at me, annoyed. Hey, I really didn't mean that. How was I supposed to know her educational background? We were in completely different fields. Of course she wouldn't meet the requirements. The only reason she was so offended was because she was insecure about it herself. I shrugged. Do I need to mock you? Am I not stating a fact? Undeniably, she was beautiful and popular as a streamer, but who told her to come to my territory to seek validation? Jessica was so angry she was breathing heavily. But then, a thought seemed to cross her mind, and her anger subsided. She adopted a condescending attitude. So what if you have a degree? Leo told me everything. You've just been coasting in some tiny company with a dozen employees, with a low salary, no skills, and an unpleasant personality. So that's how Leo described me. I remembered when he was pursuing me, he used to say he loved my personality straightforward, speaking my mind, and not afraid to show my temper. He said I never hid my feelings, which made things easy and was perfect for a lifetime together. When I gave up a high-paying job for him, he said he would remember my sacrifice and that when we got married, he would give me his salary to manage. People. When they like you, everything is a virtue. When they don't, all your virtues become flaws in their eyes. Seeing my silence, Jessica thought she had hit a sore spot and became even more arrogant. Leo and I have only known each other for 5 months, and he's already utterly devoted to me. What do you have to compete with me? I was astonished. Leo was going to prison, and she was here in front of me, flaunting his affection for her. You're going to wait for him to get out? That's true love. I wish you both the best. Chapter 13. A vicious person, as long as they didn't bring their drama to my doorstep, I sincerely wish them to be shackled together forever. My words were genuine, but Jessica didn't believe me. She stared at me defensively. He said that when the house is sold, all the money goes to me. Don't you even think about getting back together with him? Jessica had witnessed what happened at the agency with her own eyes. Where did she get the idea that there was any possibility of Leo and me reconciling? What was going through her head? I was so dumbfounded that for a moment, I couldn't tell if she cared more about the money or about Leo. Jessica's next words gave me the answer. Leo will be out as soon as the case is over. No matter how much you try to cling to him, it's useless. He loves me. I was at a loss for words. I just nodded. Yes, he loves you. Don't worry, I won't cling. She was dreaming. Out as soon as the case is over meant he was going to be locked up for a good long while. The contract Leo had forced my fingerprint on at the agency was now void. Jessica had, however, reminded me that I needed to get Leo to sign an agency agreement so I could sell the house. I couldn't just wait for him to get out of prison to sell it with him. Who knew how many years he'd be sentenced for? Since my interview today was a bust anyway, I might as well take care of this first. Seeing Jessica's still suspicious expression, as if she was deeply afraid I still had feelings for Leo, I had reason to believe her obsession was even worse than mine had been in my past life. Don't even think about getting my share of the money from the house. After saying this, I walked around her, ready to hail a cab. From behind me, I heard a quiet voice. Obviously, I only want what I can get my hands on. I stopped and turned back to look. Jessica had her back to me, and it seemed as if she had been talking to herself. Normally, her voice was a bit cutesy, similar to her on-stream persona, sweet and girly. But that last sentence was spoken in a completely normal, even cold, tone. This was interesting. Perhaps I was wrong earlier. This woman wasn't a love-struck fool. She was a master manipulator. She deliberately played the role of a naive girl in front of Leo to gain his trust. The fact that she was still acting this way in front of me was probably because Leo had told her how I couldn't live without him, and she was here to test the waters. To confirm my suspicion, after getting into a taxi, I had the driver circle back around. At this time of day, in this location, a streamer like Jessica wouldn't be here unless she was meeting someone. As the car drove to the other side of the street, I saw her fall into a man's arms, and then the two of them left together. I smiled. The wicked will be punished by the wicked. Leo loved to deceive people, and in the end, he was deceived himself. After having a lawyer draft a property sales agency agreement, I went to the police station. When the handcuffed Leo saw me, his eyes lit up as if he had grasped a lifeline. He started rambling about his impulsive actions, their 5-year relationship, and how I was the only one he loved. I cut him off, my voice cold and distant. "Stop it. Those words don't work on me anymore." Leo froze, looking at me in disbelief. "Joy, don't call me that. It's disgusting. Are you surprised that I'm not falling for your tricks anymore? As you thought, I was quite foolish. It took suffering and hardship for me to see your true nature. I once gave you my whole heart. My family did too. We never treated you like an outsider. But apparently, you're just a scumbag. Your current situation is of your own making. You have to face the consequences. Lies and deceit won't help you." Seeing that there was no hope with me, the pleading look on Leo's face vanished. "Are you here to gloat? You haven't even been sentenced yet. What is there to gloat about?" Chapter 14. Smooth sailing 5 years of devotion in exchange for the brutal death of my family. In this second chance, I had finally managed to cut my losses in time. When the dust finally settled, then I could truly enjoy the show. I took out the contract. "You promised the money from your share of the house to Jessica, didn't you? Sign this. Once the house is sold, she can have it." I thought Leo would sign without hesitation, given how eager he was to please his new love, and I was looking forward to him signing it so he could get a taste of being deceived himself. To my surprise, he refused. "Aren't you afraid your beloved Jessica will think you don't keep your word and won't wait for you?" Leo hesitated, clearly worried about that possibility. He would give in for Jessica. After all, she was the happiness he was pursuing. At the agency, the way he looked at her, so clingy and affectionate, that was true love. With me, it was probably just a scheme to get my family's assets. Unexpectedly, Leo asked, "Joy, why did you change so quickly? I could feel your love for me before. How could you just take it all back like that?" His words were ironic. "Am I some kind of masochist who should still love you after you deceived me and tried to have me killed?" Enough nonsense. "Are you signing or not?" I impatiently pushed the contract towards him. As I looked up, I saw Leo staring at me with a complicated expression. I was baffled. Before I could figure it out, my phone rang. It was Euroi Technology. I was late and they didn't let me interview. Why would they be calling me now? It couldn't be for fun. A light at the end of the tunnel? My heart pounded, and I tried to contain my excitement as I answered the phone. "Miss Anderson, I was wondering if you were unavailable for the interview today. Did they not find a suitable candidate?" My eyes lit up. "I was held up this morning and arrived 5 minutes late, so unfortunately, I missed the interview. Is there still a chance for me?" The young woman on the other end had a gentle voice. "Yes, are you available to come in now?" A brilliant smile spread across my face as I quickly replied, "Yes, I am. I can be there right away." I hung up, my mood soaring. The smile still on my face, I looked at Leo. "Are you signing?" Leo just stared at me blankly, not answering. I realized I was still smiling and quickly wiped it off, my expression turning cold again. It seemed he wasn't going to sign today. I didn't have time to waste on him. I put the contract away and turned to leave. Someone else would be more anxious about this than me. I shouldn't have been the one to initiate this. I took a taxi to Euroi. The receptionist who had turned me away earlier was now incredibly polite, personally escorting me to the elevator. She even smiled at me and said she looked forward to working with me. It was as if I had already gotten the job. It was very strange. but the formal interview process dispelled my feeling of strangeness. The questions were all professional ones an assistant should know, and I answered them fluently. Finally, they asked about my knowledge of the company. Fortunately, I had done extensive research beforehand and answered calmly and articulately. The interview was quite long, but it went very smoothly. At the end, the administrative manager consulted quietly with the others and then said to me, "Can you start tomorrow?" I was stunned. Tomorrow? No need to wait for a notification. I was hired just like that. Wasn't there supposed to be an interview with the CEO himself? Is that inconvenient? No, it's fine, I can start tomorrow, I replied quickly. Getting the job so easily was something I had never expected. Walking out of the company, I looked back at the towering skyscraper with a sense of disbelief. Had my bad luck finally run out, to be replaced by good fortune? I let out a soft laugh. Chapter 15. Familiar the next day, I completed the onboarding process and officially started my new job. My position was assistant to the CEO, but after a week of work, I hadn't even met my boss. I only knew his name was Sebastian Sterling. He had another assistant, a man who handled his travel schedule. I was only responsible for documents and other tasks that needed to be completed within the company. Over the past few days, I had seen his name on the files I organized. His handwriting was excellent, bold, and flamboyant. There was a strange sense of familiarity about his handwriting. That odd feeling was answered on this day. I went to the CEO's office to deliver a file and found someone inside. A man. He was wearing a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, revealing strong-looking forearms. His long fingers held a pen. Although his head was bowed and I couldn't see his face clearly, it was obvious that he was young. The only person who could be working in this office had to be my mysterious boss, Sebastian Sterling. I had thought he wasn't in, so I hadn't knocked. Seeing that he hadn't noticed me, I tiptoed back out like a thief. I gently closed the door and let out a breath. I knocked, but there was no response. Did he not hear me? After waiting a moment, I prepared to knock again. Just as I raised my hand, the office door opened. I froze, my gaze straight ahead, seeing only the collar of his shirt. "Mr. Sterling, I'm the new assistant, Joy Anderson." I could feel his eyes on me, sizing me up. I kept a smile on my face, not daring to look up. I had heard that this CEO had a bad temper. In the past 8 months, he had already fired 10 assistants. Now, many people were betting on whether I could last even a month. Surprisingly, they seemed to think I had a good chance. They said I had a good temper and might be able to last longer. So, in others' eyes, I had a good temper. Leo used to manipulate me by saying I had a bad temper and needed to change. This was all from a private group chat at the company. The HR assistant who handled my onboarding must have accidentally added me. I thought it was a group for all administrative staff and was about to say hello when I saw them start gossiping. In that situation, I had no choice but to pretend I didn't exist and wait for someone to eventually notice. I had worked so hard to get this job. I didn't want to get fired the first time I met my boss. "Come in." The boss's voice was deep and pleasant, but why did it also sound so familiar? Puzzled, I looked up only to see his back. Strange. Could I have met Sebastian Sterling before? I followed him thoughtfully. When he sat back down in his chair, I handed him the file, placing it on his desk. "The ones with the red tabs are urgent, the green tabs." I stopped mid-sentence as I inadvertently looked up and my eyes met Sebastian's. "Sebastian?" My eyes widened in disbelief. A slow smile spread across his lips, his dark eyes deep and unreadable. "Joy, long time no see." My boss was my college classmate. And not just any classmate, he was someone who had once pursued me and whom I had a secret crush on. For a moment, my mind was a whirlwind of emotions. "You didn't see my resume and give me special treatment, did you?" I asked, torn. Even though 5 years had passed, Sebastian couldn't have forgotten me. It wasn't that I was being vain, but thinking back now, all the strange things about my interview suddenly made sense. The receptionist telling me she looked forward to working with me before I had even interviewed. Being told I was hired without the final interview with the CEO. If it wasn't because my skills were recognized, could it be that Sebastian wanted revenge on me? Thinking about the things I said when I rejected him, they were quite humiliating. Chapter 16. Friends, don't sell yourself short. You earned this job with your own abilities. I didn't receive your resume until after you were hired." Sebastian spoke calmly, but I saw his hand gripping the pen so tightly it looked like it would snap in two. I subconsciously touched my neck. Why did it feel like he wanted to strangle me more? Following my gaze, Sebastian noticed the pen in his hand, paused, then tossed it aside and waved me away dismissively. "You can go. I'll call you if I need anything." I scrambled out of the office. Back at my desk, I patted my chest, my mind drifting back to the past. Sebastian Sterling, who went by just Sebastian back then, was, just as his name suggested, a dazzling presence at school. Compared to him, who was always the center of attention wherever he went, I was like an insignificant blade of grass. Yet, in private, we were good friends. We met on the first day of freshman year. For the next 3 years, I was almost always present at his private gatherings. His family background was evident from his spending habits. He came from a wealthy and influential family, and not just an ordinary one. Back then, I liked him, but I never dared to let him know. We were worlds apart. Besides, there were always so many girls flocking around him, so I treated my feelings as mere admiration for an idol. I never fit in with his group of friends. I struggled to integrate into Sebastian's circle. Many times, I could see in his friends' eyes that they looked at me like I was a clown. Still, I persisted for 3 years. In our senior year, one of Sebastian's female friends said jokingly in front of him, "Could Joy have a crush on our Sebastian? She sure has high standards." Her tone was playful, but in her eyes, which only I could see, was written pure mockery, as if I were a toad lusting after a swan. It was Sebastian's birthday, and the whole room was filled with people laughing. I laughed along with them. Sebastian looked at me, and he was laughing too. Their laughter was ridicule. Only I was smiling on the outside while crying on the inside. From that day on, I stopped attending any of Sebastian's gatherings. Sebastian messaged me a few times to ask why, and I made excuses about being busy. After that, he stopped asking and didn't come looking for me. I was hurt at the time. Sebastian had once said that being with me was easy and that he wanted to be my friend forever. In reality, it meant nothing. I packed away my admiration for him. During my internship, I met Leo. He was a client of our company at the time. Leo was completely different from Sebastian. Sebastian came from a privileged background and had never had to take care of anyone. The people around him always revolved around him, and he naturally enjoyed being cared for. Leo was different. He was thoughtful and very caring. At a company dinner with clients, someone tried to pressure me, an intern, into drinking. Leo stepped in and deflected it for me. With Leo, I felt a warmth and a sense of belonging that I thought was right for someone of my station. Although now, looking back, I realize Leo only started pursuing me and being so attentive after he found out about my family's financial situation from me. But back then, I was too naive to suspect anything. When Leo was walking me back to campus, we ran into Sebastian. Or perhaps Sebastian had been waiting there specifically to ambush me. When Sebastian saw me walking with Leo, he got very angry and demanded, "So this is what you call being busy?" I didn't understand why he was so angry. To him, wasn't I just a disposable friend? At the time, Leo and I hadn't made our relationship official, so I told him to go on ahead. When Sebastian saw that I wasn't responding, he grabbed my hand, his dark eyes staring intensely at me as he asked through gritted teeth, "What is your relationship with him?" Chapter 17. "The bet just friends, I guess," I replied after a few seconds of silence, pulling my hand back. Sebastian's pupils contracted. Suddenly, he cursed, "Damn friends." I looked at him, stunned. Sebastian's face was grim. "Since you have other friends, then I don't want to be your friend anymore." So he was angry that I wasn't his only friend. His possessiveness was a bit too much. Just as I was thinking this, Sebastian grabbed my hand again. "Joy, be my girlfriend." I was completely frozen, just staring at him foolishly. At that moment, Sebastian's phone rang. He glanced at it, then looked up at me with a grin. "It's settled then." He let go of my hand and turned to leave, leaving me standing there in a daze. As Sebastian's back disappeared from view, I gave a self-mocking smile. "That's not a funny joke. You might not find it funny, but we do." A female voice came from behind me. Startled, I turned to see the same girl who had mocked me at Sebastian's birthday party. She chuckled. "It's so amusing to watch you commoners get all worked up over love. but since I'm a kind person, I'll let you in on a little secret. Sebastian made a bet with someone that he could get you to be his girlfriend. Some of us bet that you'd agree ecstatically. Others bet that you'd be too insecure to agree. So, Joy, who do you think will win the bet? It was something their group was definitely capable of doing. Combined with Sebastian's joke-like proposal, I believed her. From that day on, I saw Sebastian every night. He would come to see me for a moment each day. He said that no matter how busy he was, he had to see me. And that was literally it. He would see me for a moment, and then he would leave. Sebastian seemed very busy. Facing him, my heart grew colder and colder. On graduation day, someone had extravagantly arranged thousands of roses into a giant heart on campus. It was a familiar scene for a grand proposal. The day was already lively, and such a lavish display attracted everyone's attention. The roses were so beautiful that I went to check it out too. As soon as I arrived, I saw Sebastian walk into the center of the rose heart and look towards me. My heart started pounding. Was he going to confess to me? To go to such lengths for a bet, he was really willing to spare no expense. Joy, Sebastian called my name. Everyone's gaze turned to me, and a path automatically cleared for me to walk towards him. I was met with looks of surprise and envy. No one didn't know who Sebastian was, but no one ever thought he would confess to me, because they didn't know that Sebastian was just playing a game. Just then, another voice called from behind me, Joy. It was Leo. He had promised to come and congratulate me on my graduation day. I had also told him that on this day, I would give him my answer. The crowd behind me also parted. I stood in the middle, looking towards Sebastian. Sebastian's face darkened. He said to me, Joy, you're my girlfriend. Come here. Under his gloomy gaze, I shook my head. I'm not your girlfriend. Then, I walked towards Leo and accepted the flowers he was holding. In front of Sebastian, Leo kissed me. Sebastian, the campus celebrity, instantly became the center of gossip, a laughingstock for the entire school. I laughed at him too, because none of the bets their group made had been won. Despite being ridiculed by so many people, the proud Sebastian didn't just turn and walk away. Instead, he walked towards me, his eyes crimson as he stared at me, demanding an answer. Why? Joy, what does he have that I don't? What did I say to him then? Chapter 18. Compliments. My exact words were, Sebastian, I hate how high and mighty you are. I hate your sense of superiority. Do you think that just because you said you wanted me to be your girlfriend, I should be grateful and agree? Sorry, you're not my type. He is. With that, I took Leo's hand. Leo shot Sebastian a smug look, then took my hand in his and led me away. From that day on, Sebastian and I never spoke again. Leo once told me, you made the right choice with me. That classmate of yours, he's obviously not reliable. He was just playing around. If you had taken it seriously, you would have been hurt sooner or later. Later, he would say, Joy, you must really love me to reject someone so rich. I thought he was joking and played along, saying yes, I did. I guess that's when Leo started feeling superior, thinking I couldn't live without him. Waking from my reverie, I glanced at the CEO's office with a complicated expression. Even though Sebastian's confession was part of a bet, the humiliation of being laughed at by the entire school was real. A person as proud as him would surely hold onto that as a grudge. I've just served myself up on a silver platter for his revenge. The way he looked so restrained earlier, it was like he was seconds away from grabbing me and strangling me. What should I do? Quit? No, I couldn't. After finally getting such a great job opportunity, I couldn't just run away without a fight. So I continued to work, trembling with anxiety. Every little thing made me think Sebastian's revenge was about to begin. However, half a month passed, and absolutely nothing happened. The group chat I was mistakenly added to became active again. Including the time Mr. Sterling has been out of the office, Assistant Anderson has been here for 23 days, yeah, and Mr. Sterling hasn't lost his temper once. The other day, I saw Mr. Sterling staring at Assistant Anderson's back for a long time. What do you guys think he was thinking? When would be a good time to fire her? No way. What was his expression like? Expressionless. But his eyes, how do I put it? I couldn't read them. They seemed complicated. Reading their chat logs, my heart trembled. Sebastian had been perfectly normal to me during this time, just like any boss with a subordinate. I had started to think I was being paranoid and was gradually letting my guard down. I never would have thought that Sebastian was secretly plotting how to deal with me. My defenses went right back up. Sebastian noticed. After I brewed him tea and brought it into his office, his inscrutable gaze fell on my face. I straightened my back. "Mr. Sterling, is there anything else?" Sebastian retracted his gaze and asked casually, "Have your standards for a partner changed?" "What?" I was taken aback, not understanding. Sebastian put down his pen and looked at me seriously. "You used to say you hated people who were high and mighty with a sense of superiority. That probably means you don't like guys from wealthy families who are too good-looking and capable. Judging by your choice, you prefer someone average-looking, from an ordinary family, the kind of person who would disappear in a crowd. Do you still like that type?" He made it sound like I was some kind of freak who rejected the good for the bad. If it weren't for his bet, I wouldn't have said those things to him in the first place. "It's work hours. I'd rather not discuss personal topics," I replied curtly. Realizing he was the one who held my job in his hands, I quickly forced a stiff smile. "Mr. Sterling, you're so concerned about your employees' preferences. Are you trying to set me up with someone? I never would have expected it." Sebastian actually nodded. As I stared in shock, he said, "Yes, your taste is questionable. I'll personally vet them for you." Chapter 19. Wanting to retreat Sebastian was definitely challenging me. I forced myself to nod. Okay, I thought that would be the end of it, just empty words. But I was wrong again. That evening, when I got home, Sebastian sent me a message telling me to go on a blind date with him. Since my parents' house was too far from the company, I had rented an apartment nearby after starting at Urui. I figured no one knew about this and was about to make up an excuse about living too far away to refuse. But before I could send my message, one came in from him. "I'm downstairs." I was shocked. "Downstairs where?" I ran to the window and looked down, but I didn't see anything. Another message from Sebastian came through, this time with the location of my rented apartment. Was he stalking me? Wait, we weren't even friends on any messaging apps. How did he send me a message? Did I forget to delete him, and he never deleted me? So my social media feed has been open to him for the past 5 years. Has he been secretly watching my life all this time? No way. Sebastian was a busy man, and he hated my guts. He couldn't be some kind of creep, secretly keeping tabs on me. Sebastian sent the location, and then nothing else. I dawdled for a long time before finally going downstairs. I wasn't in the mood for a blind date, so I just threw on some casual clothes and didn't even bother with makeup. I assumed that someone with so little patience would have left by now. After all, back in the day, he would complain if I took too long just to change my clothes before we went out. But there he was, leaning against his car. He had even changed his shirt from the one he wore at the office and had styled his hair. Looking at us, you would think he was the one going on the blind date, not me. Sebastian saw my half-hearted appearance but didn't seem to mind. He opened the passenger door and said, "Get in." Might as well go with the flow. It's not like he was going to sell me, right? With that thought, I got in the car. As the car drove further and further away, I started to get nervous. "Mr. Sterling," Sebastian cut me off. "It's after hours. You don't have to call me that, just call me what you used to." I used to call him by his first name. But now he was my boss. No employee calls their boss by their first name, not even after work seeing my awkwardness. Sebastian sneered. "Didn't you say you hated me being high and mighty and having a sense of superiority? It's just a name. Are you scared now?" He remembered so clearly after 5 years. He must really hate me. He didn't have good intentions for asking me out today. A blind date? He probably just wanted to see me make a fool of myself. I cursed at him in my head, but I managed a weak laugh. "Mr. Sterling, you have a great memory," Sebastian snorted. "It's pretty good." Being in such a small space with him, the pressure was intense. I couldn't even maintain a forced smile. I wanted out, so I laid my cards on the table. "Mr. Sterling, actually, I just got divorced not long ago. I'm not ready to start dating again so soon." But what did he say? He said, "It's been almost half a year. That's long enough." My pupils dilated in shock. My temper flared, and I forgot he was my boss. "You investigated me, Sebastian. You're just trying to get revenge, aren't you? Even though I said those hurtful things back then and embarrassed you in front of the whole school. It was only because you made a bet with someone about me. I wouldn't have done that otherwise." A screech of brakes suddenly filled the air as the car jerked to a stop. Inertia threw me forward, but thankfully, my seatbelt held me back. That scared the life out of me. I glared at Sebastian, only to find his face dark and stormy, his eyes brewing with a dangerous, towering rage. "Who did I make a bet with about you? What bet?" Sebastian's words were ground out through gritted teeth. I was stunned. From his expression, it seemed I might have been deceived. Chapter 20. The truth, tell me, who did I make a bet with? How come I don't know anything about it? Sebastian's hands were clenched so tightly on the steering wheel that I could see he was struggling to control his emotions. I flinched and told him everything the girl had said. After I finished, Sebastian was silent for a long time. Then he gave me a complicated look. My fault. His fault for what? As I was wondering, I heard him say, "Poor judgment of character, bad choice of friends. I should be the one to bear the bitter consequences." I couldn't quite grasp what he meant, but I had just realized something else. If there was no bet, then Sebastian's proposal to be his girlfriend, the grand gesture in front of the whole school, was it all for real? My eyelashes fluttered as I cautiously glanced at Sebastian. Did he really like me back then? Sebastian didn't speak or look at me, but his lips were pressed into a thin line, a clear sign of his bad mood. The car drove straight into a gated community. I looked around, wanting to ask if he was taking me to someone's house for a blind date, but for some reason, I felt guilty and didn't dare to ask. If I had just confirmed with him back then, this whole misunderstanding could have been avoided. But then again, who would ask about something like that? If it were true, it would have been humiliating. And if he denied it, I wouldn't have had any proof. Either way, I was in a difficult position back then. Now that time has passed and I have more experience, it's easier to see things clearly. Sebastian stopped the car and finally turned to look at me. He seemed to have calmed down, but there was a strange intensity in his eyes. The moment our eyes met, I was startled and quickly looked away. "Is the person you're setting me up with here?" Sebastian grunted in agreement and started walking towards the villa. He was really going to introduce me to someone. Then what was that look about? "Keep up," Sebastian said, looking back at me. I snapped out of my daze and followed him. The house was in the middle of a party. It must have been someone's birthday, as there were "Happy Birthday" banners everywhere and colorful balloons. As soon as we appeared, confetti cannons went off. Sebastian stood in front of me without moving, taking the full blast of the confetti. Only a few stray pieces landed on my head. "Happy birthday!" Everyone cheered and laughed at Sebastian. Oh, so it was Sebastian's birthday. I had completely forgotten. Sebastian brushed the confetti off his head and pulled me out from behind him. In front of the stunned crowd, he introduced me. "This is Joy. Most of you know her." Several of them were from Sebastian's college circle. I only recognized their faces. I had forgotten most of their names. We were never close, so I hadn't bothered to remember them. They clearly remembered me, and were now looking at me in shock. "You two are still in touch?" a girl asked, her face stiff. I looked up at her. Oh, it was the girl who had caused the misunderstanding. I think she was the daughter of one of his father's business partners. The girl then feigned enthusiasm and said to me, "I heard you got married. I never thought you'd be the first one among us to get married. Is your husband the one from back in college?" Everyone looked from me to Sebastian, their expressions a mixture of suppressed curiosity and amusement. I smiled generously. "Your information is a bit outdated. I've been divorced for almost half a year. Not only was I the first to get married, but I was also the first to get divorced." The expressions on their faces became even more priceless. The girl looked at Sebastian with hurt in her eyes. "Sebastian, even after all this, you still want her." Sebastian's cold gaze swept over her. "Get out, you're not welcome anywhere I am from now on. We've known each other since we were kids. Are you really going to do this for an outsider? Get out." Sebastian cut her off calmly. "If you don't leave now, we can talk about what happened 5 years ago." The girl's eyes widened in shock. She shot me a resentful glare and ran out, crying. The room fell silent for a moment before Sebastian's friends managed to liven things up again. They drank a lot, and as the birthday boy, Sebastian drank a lot too, but no one offered me a drink. Unlike 5 years ago, when they looked down on me, this time they were all incredibly polite and respectful, almost as if they were afraid to let me drink. Chapter 21. The struggle, the feeling was strange but very real. The party went on late into the night. One by one, people were picked up, until the entire villa was empty except for me and a very drunk Sebastian. It was so late, and without a car, it was inconvenient to leave. It was obvious now. Sebastian had intentionally brought me here to celebrate his birthday with him, and he had no intention of letting me go home. I looked at Sebastian, who was passed out on the sofa, with mixed feelings. Could he be a devoted lover, still thinking about me after all these years? I looked around. The bedrooms were probably on the second floor. There was no way I could carry a man dead drunk with my strength. I found a blanket and covered him with it. I then lay down on the other end of the sofa, planning to make do for the night. But just as I lay down, Sebastian sat up. He looked around frantically. When he saw me, he froze, then relaxed and staggered towards me. I quickly got up to support him. "Be careful, you're going to fall." Sebastian's response was to pull me into a hug. My back stiffened, and I tried to push him away. Then I heard him whisper in my ear, "Joy, you're in my dreams again. That man is no good for you. Don't marry him. Be with me, okay? I'm not high and mighty at all. In front of you, I've always put myself in a humble position just so you would stay my friend. Didn't you notice? Please don't hate me, okay?" Sebastian's voice, softened by the alcohol, combined with his almost pleading tone, made my eyes well up. Such sincere emotion made my heart ache. I didn't know how to respond. Sebastian lifted his head from my neck and looked at me with a magical expression. "You called my name. This dream feels so real tonight." With that, he pulled me along with him. "Joy, I'll show you my treasure." Sebastian's steps were unsteady, but he was insistent on me following him. There was no reasoning with a drunk person. I had no choice but to help him up the stairs. Sebastian led me to a room that required his fingerprint to unlock. I thought it was his real treasure: gold, silver, antiques, that sort of thing. I wanted to avoid any suspicion and tried to persuade him not to go in, but even in his drunken state, he was surprisingly strong. He pulled me right in. When I saw what was inside, I was stunned. The things he kept behind a fingerprint lock weren't valuable items. It was our past. The inexpensive gifts I had given him were carefully displayed under glass domes. There were so many photos. I never knew we had taken so many pictures together. The most intimate pose was just him with his arm around my shoulder. We were friends back then, and I had carefully hidden my feelings for him. In those photos, sometimes I was looking at him, and sometimes he was looking at me. Our gazes were surprisingly identical. It was the look of someone in love. If I had confessed to him back then, I wonder what would have become of us. A tear rolled down my cheek. This tear was for the regrets of the past. Sebastian hugged me from behind. "Joy, my parents didn't approve of us being together. To get their support, I started getting involved in the family business in college. They promised me that if I could successfully manage a branch company on my own by the time I graduated, they would agree. That branch was on the verge of bankruptcy. I was so busy with that damn company, so busy that I could only see you for a moment each day. But just seeing you for that one moment was enough to recharge me, to keep me going. So that was why he waited to see me for just a moment every night, only to leave right after." Chapter 22. Liking I succeeded, but Joy, why do you hate me? I turned to face Sebastian. His face was full of pain. His eyes were misty from the alcohol, but even so, it couldn't hide the sadness within. Sebastian was supposed to be an unattainable dream for me. I never thought that I was his dream too. He had been working so hard, all alone, just to make that dream a reality. "Sebastian, I don't hate you." I looked into his eyes and said, my voice hoarse but sincere, "Really? Then do you like me?" I didn't know how to answer for a moment. Do I like him? Do I not? I did, but I was afraid to say it. The drunk Sebastian was not cold and distant, but rather clingy and persistent. He kept pestering me, asking, "Do you like me?" If I said no, he would start to cry and keep asking, "Why not? Do you still hate me?" It got to the point where I had to say I liked him just to calm him down and get him to be quiet. It worked. After I said I liked him, Sebastian stopped making a fuss. But then he pulled me to his bedroom, saying that tonight's dream was amazing, that Joy said she liked him, and that he wanted to sleep while holding me. With that, he hugged me and fell onto the bed. No matter how much I struggled, I couldn't get free. After wrestling with him for what felt like half the night, I was exhausted. Seeing that he was just holding me and not doing anything improper, I relaxed and eventually fell asleep. The next day, I groggily opened my eyes, and what I saw in front of me shocked me awake. I quickly covered my mouth with my hand. Sebastian was still holding me in the same position as last night, my entire body in his arms. He was propped up on his elbow, his face very close to mine. Just a moment ago, his lips had almost kissed me. "You're awake," Sebastian said with a look of regret. "I thought I could sneak in a few more." I glared at him. "You were stealing kisses." Sebastian suddenly pulled my hand away, pinning it to the pillow. He rolled over, and my body was now trapped under his. "Sebastian!" I cried out in panic. "Joy!" Sebastian buried his head in my neck and nuzzled me affectionately for a moment before lifting his head to look at me seriously. "I remember everything from last night. You said you like me." I paused and calmed down. I believed Sebastian's feelings for me. I just never thought that he would remember what we said when he sobered up, and that he would be so insistent. Sebastian had nothing to gain by deceiving me. If he still wanted to be with me after all this time, then perhaps I could be a little bolder. "It's been 5 years. I chose my words carefully. We've both changed. I might not be the same Joy you remember. Maybe we need some time to adjust, to see if we're still what each other wants." Sebastian looked hurt. "You've been around me for half a month already. Haven't you figured it out yet? I've been watching you every day, wanting to tell you how I feel." I felt a little guilty. For the past half a month, I had been so focused on how to deal with his potential revenge that I hadn't had time to notice anything else. "You're heavy," I complained, trying to change the subject. But as soon as the words left my mouth, I realized how intimate our current situation was. My face flushed, and I averted my gaze. The next second, I felt a soft pressure on my lips. Sebastian's scent filled my senses. "Are you my girlfriend now?" Sebastian's question was laced with insecurity, probably because of the trauma from 5 years ago. I lifted my chin and gave him a small kiss. "And are you my boyfriend now?" Sebastian's grin stretched from ear to ear. "Of course I, Sebastian Sterling, am Joy Anderson's boyfriend." He hugged me joyfully and rolled over, so I was lying on top of him. Chapter 23. Important infected by Sebastian's joy, I felt incredibly happy too. We spent the morning fooling around. We didn't cross any major lines, but there was no shortage of kisses. Thank goodness it was the weekend and we didn't have to work, or we both would have been late. I never expected that we would have our first fight so soon after getting together. I wanted to go home, but Sebastian didn't want me to leave. Seeing this, I was reminded of the argument that led to my divorce with Leo. I had wanted to stay at my parents' house, and he wouldn't let me. Suddenly, I felt a wave of exhaustion. Are all men like this? Just as I was about to retreat, Sebastian suddenly said, "Which home are you going back to? Your parents'? Can I come with you?" I considered the possibility, then shook my head. "Isn't that a bit too fast?" "How is it fast? It's been almost 10 years for us. How many 10 years does a person get in their life? If you put it that way, it really has been a long time." Sebastian dressed up carefully, saying that he had to be formal for his first meeting with his future in-laws. The gifts were already in the car when I received a call from Jessica. She wanted me to go to the police station. Leo was ready to sign the property sales agency agreement. So Sebastian drove me to my rented apartment to get the agreement, then took me to the police station. When Leo saw me with Sebastian, his face turned ugly. "You're with him?" Leo asked. Before I could answer, Sebastian took my hand, lacing his fingers with mine, and then shot Leo a smug look. What's mine will always be mine in the end. Men can be petty too. Sebastian was getting his revenge. Leo glared at me. "You were with him all along, weren't you? That's why you suddenly became so cold to me you cheated on me." He was insane. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him. "Are you signing the agreement or not? Your precious Jessica is waiting." Leo glanced at the displeased look on Jessica's face and swallowed his resentment. The signing went smoothly. However, Leo's share of the money was to be transferred directly to Jessica's bank account, as he requested. As Sebastian and I were leaving, I heard Leo say to Jessica, "I'm giving you all my money. You have to wait for me to get out." Jessica's cutesy voice replied, "Of course I love you so much, how could I not wait for you? The thought of being with any other man is just unbearable." I burst out laughing. "What's so funny?" Sebastian looked at me. I pulled him out of the police station before saying, "That Jessica, she's lying to Leo." "Aren't you going to warn him?" I looked at him strangely. "Why would I? This is his karma." Sebastian sighed. 5 years ago, you left me for someone like him. Then, with a hurt expression, he said, "This morning, you almost gave up on me again, didn't you?" I froze. I never thought Sebastian was so perceptive. I had only had the thought for a moment, and he had noticed. No wonder he had suddenly insisted on coming home with me. In the car, he held me for a long time, lamenting that I made him feel very insecure. My parents eventually met him. They were shocked that I had found someone so quickly, but after getting to know him, they thought Sebastian was a good man and gave us their blessing. Half a year later, Sebastian and I got married. It was on our wedding day that I finally understood why his friends were so afraid to let me drink at his birthday party. The day I started at the company, Sebastian had invited his friends to dinner and laid down the law. He was going to pursue me again, and in the future, I would be their sister-in-law. They were not to disrespect me, or he would make them regret it. Also, my job at Euroi was his doing as well. He had guessed from my social media posts that I was looking for a job and had someone give me a company recruitment flyer on my usual route. Then, he just waited for me to fall into his trap. A very calculating man. Unknowingly, another 10 years passed. Sebastian and I had a son and a daughter. When we took the children to my parents' house for the new year, my mother told me that Leo had been arrested again, this time for a much longer sentence. Apparently, after he was released from prison, Jessica was nowhere to be found. He found her address through her live streams and went to her place, only to find that she hadn't waited for him at all. Not only was she with another man, but she also mocked him for being stupid. In a fit of rage, Leo grabbed a fruit knife from her kitchen and killed her. I had never expected things to end like that. "It's a good thing you broke up with him. Sebastian is so much better," my mother said with satisfaction, looking at Sebastian playing with the children in the living room. I looked over as well. As if sensing my gaze, Sebastian turned his head and smiled at me. "Wife, come join us." They were building with Legos. "Okay, I'm coming." I got up and went over. Yes, Sebastian is wonderful. My nightmares are long gone, and my life is now filled with several important people.